What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Excited as always to have you tuning in. Thank you so much. Great show. I know I say that a lot, but great show today. Tiphanie Cannon, who is the owner of Oh So Sweet in Davenport, Iowa, is on the show. Tiphanie, thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. That is for sure. So thank you.
Of course, we're going to have a great conversation today. Before we get into some of the backstory, as we always do, tell people exactly what is Oh So Sweet.
Okay, so Oh So Sweet is a small bakery that I started. I started from my house and just kind of kept growing and growing, and it's been very successful, and it's been really good for the community as well.
How many years have you had the bakery?
I've had a storefront now we just turned 6, but I did it for 3 years out of my home before that. So I've been doing it almost for 10 years now.
That is multiple lifetimes in the restaurant industry. That's for sure.
It is, and I'm tired. I'm getting old.
I bet we're gonna get into that a little bit. So let's take people back, because you didn't start on the path, like myself and others, where
Sure.
You were in it from the beginning. You had a different path, and you kind of made a transition. So take us back. What were you doing before you made the pivot, as we talk about pivots all the time,
Sure.
towards the bakery world? What were you doing before that?
Sure. So I went to the University of Iowa in Iowa City to study elementary education. I thought that I wanted to be a teacher. And I did teach 3rd grade in Bettendorf for 5 years. And then I decided to stay at home and raise my kids. And while I was at home, I was bored. So I did a lot of, I wanted to be, I'm very type A. So I wanted to be the best stay-at-home mom I could possibly be, which meant cooking 3-course meals every night, making souffle, baking off coffee cake just to make the house smell good. So what I did during my time when I was raising my children at home is I taught myself how to cook and bake, and I really loved the baking side of it. I loved the visual. I loved how it looked. I loved following an exact recipe. So I watched a lot of food TV. I watched Food Network. I read blogs. I read magazines. My favorite thing to do was to go on a Saturday night to a Mexican restaurant with my mom, and we would spread cookbooks out and look at them. So there came a time in my life where I decided that I needed to, my kids were getting older, and I needed to go back to something. And the bureaucracy and the grindingness of the school system did not appeal to me anymore. I wanted to do something where I could make a quick decision, and where if I wanted to try something, I could try it really fast. So, for example, if you had a student, I taught 3rd grade. So if I had a student who the gap between the kids who can achieve and the kids who are struggling in 3rd grade gets really, really wide. And I would see these kids struggling, and they needed help as soon as possible. But in order to get them some help, it was going to be a 2-year process. And that was driving me crazy. So
yeah, I mean, you're type A, so that kind of rigor is strangling.
So let's get them help right now. They need help now. So opening my own business was something that just really, I didn't even really think twice about. So I thought it was low risk. So I started out of my home. I had a little tiny mixer and a little tiny oven, and I thought, I'm just going to see how this goes. And then I just kind of kept growing and growing. I did my friend, I would take desserts to my neighbors, desserts to offices, desserts to my sister's office, and I would get orders that way. My friend had a restaurant, and so I took a dessert every day to her restaurant, and I would get orders that way. Well, then she and I did the farmer's market, and then it was like, and I ended up getting so busy that I decided I needed to open a storefront. And so that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah, that's it.
I love it. I think that's an amazing journey. It's like a food version of like Apple starting in the garage, right? I think that's a fascinating story. So I
had no business opening a storefront. I'm telling you, I had no business doing it.
Here's the thing, nobody does, Tiphanie. Nobody does.
That's the truth. but I have perseverance, and I knew I could figure it out. And I had been in the service industry, food industry, since I was 14
Yeah.
in some capacity or another. And so it all kind of translates. And so, I think by sheer drive and also a fear of failure, which I have, I feel like it just all worked out. So thank God.
That's perfect. That you have that purebred entrepreneurial spirit in you for sure. What are a couple of the things that you remember from those early days once you transition? Because it's a big jump from at-home farmers markets to the brick and mortar to having four walls surrounding you. That's a huge commitment. Talk about those early days, the trials, the successes that you saw. Anybody who was there through those early days?
Yeah, so there were a lot of things that were eye-opening, and I would say taxes were number one. Taxes suck. Also, managing humans was like, oh, not everybody has the same work ethic or drive that you have. Wait, what? Not everybody is taking your business into their heart like you are? Oh, that was eye-opening as well. Figuring out how to handle customers, there was just a giant learning curve for everything. Marketing, just because one is a good, and I've said this a million times, just because one is a good chef or a person is a good pastry chef does not translate into being able to run a successful business. And so that was really eye-opening as well, is that I had to be able to hold my own in the pastry world, but I also had a whole nother ball of wax to figure out too on how to make this business run. So
yeah, you're wearing a lot of different hats and existing in different spaces completely. The pastry is one thing, the business is a completely different thing and takes different skills for sure. Was it all important learning when you reflect on it, or there's a couple things that you say, I absolutely would do this different if I had it to do it over again?
What would I do differently?
And you can say nothing. I had to struggle and figure it out, and that's the way it is.
And I do think that because I never worked in a commercial bakery and a professional bakery before, there was a lot to learn, production-wise, just the behind the scenes. But it was good for me. And honestly, the community really grabbed it. They rallied a little bit, and then they have just been so supportive that I feel like everything that happened was a really good learning experience for me. And I honestly don't know that I would change anything. I mean, I have a tough skin now. I know how to handle employees now. I know how to diffuse customers now. I know what will sell and won't sell. I know how to make the front of house look beautiful so that people want to come in. I'm trying to market. I think I know what works with marketing. So I think everything that has come at me really has helped me grow as a business owner. So I don't know. I think to answer your question, I don't think I would change anything.
I think that's the right answer. I think that's absolutely great. I think it's all the mistakes lead, the micro failures lead to the success. I'm an all-in buyer on that for sure. I want to start community, and then I want to talk about marketing. Two things I'm very fascinated in what you've been able to do very well. The community standpoint, we're gonna start with Food Network. You mentioned watching Food Network. You get on to Food Network, and that kind of explodes for you. And then we're going to talk about how that connects the community. But talk about your experience with the Food Network challenge, right? Food Network challenge. That was where you were at.
So so if you had told me, first of all, like when I first started this, that I would be on Food Network within 6 years, I would have thought you were nuts. I didn't ever see that coming. What had happened, I think, and I never really asked, but every time I would be on local television, and local television has been amazing to Oh So Sweet and myself, every time I was on local television, I would hashtag it. So there were a lot of times, for my personal journey, I always felt like because I stayed at home and taught myself how to bake, that was something I wanted to share with viewers. Like, you can do this at home too. Let me take the mystery out of it. So they had me on local television a lot. And every time I was on, I would take a picture with the host or the person that was with me, and I would hashtag it. So what had happened is that a casting agent from California did a hashtag search, and he sent me a message, not even through Oh So Sweet's Instagram, but my personal Instagram, and said, hey, would you like to fill out this application for this challenge, for the Christmas cookie challenge? And I thought it was a joke. And so I said, oh yeah, sure. Huh? Yeah. Uh-huh. And so I did it. I told him yes, and then I didn't fill it out. And the next day he found Oh So Sweet's work number, and I was eating lunch, and he was like, hey, it's the producer. Are you going to fill this out? And I was like, oh my God, this is real. Yeah. And so I filled it out, and then it was like a whirlwind because they have a giant vetting process. And then it was Skype interview, application. And then they wanted to make sure you could actually bake, so you had to send in photos. Well, it was this giant process. And then next thing you know, I'm flying to Los Angeles, and I'm with 4 other people I've never met in a city I've never met. I've never been in a hotel where I'm not totally sure, getting ready to bake in a kitchen that I've only had a tour of for 10 minutes. So, and yeah, that was really about it. And then also on top of it, they make you sign a non-disclosure, so you can't tell anybody. And so then I had to keep the secret for like 9 months, which was really hard.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's a long time. And you seem like somebody who's, not necessarily one to keep secrets for a long time. You're very gregarious, right?
Yeah. If it comes in my head, it's usually coming out my mouth. So that was a really tough one. And that was hard to tell. But once I was able to kind of tell everybody once the show was getting ready to air and we had the go ahead to tell the community and post it on social media, the community was they rallied around me and were very kind. It's kind of a big deal, you kind of downplay it because you're like, well, and I didn't win and but it's kind of like once you step back from it, you're kind of like, holy shit, I was on Food Network. You know what I mean? Like, you can't take that away. Right?
I mean, especially for you, going way back when you're watching Food Network and sprawling cookbooks out at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Like you made it. Everything that you looked at as a potential roadmap for you made it to that. So I think that's great. Community, I want to go deeper because the watch party. Tell us about the watch party for your Food Network Challenge premiere show.
Do you want to know the truth? I'll tell you the truth.
Please. It's just you and I. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. No problem. I had a private watch party that I set up with a restaurant that's, around the corner from Oh So Sweet. And I sent out invites and thought it was great. And then some of my friends, just organically, I've made friends with some of the people in the news. And then one of the morning broadcasters here announced that there was a watch party. I was like, wait, what? And then a news crew came, and then like a lot of strangers came too, which was fine. I just wasn't, prepared for. I would have thrown a different. I would have thrown a different type of party for everybody. I just didn't think people would be interested, and it was, it was really cold. We had a really cold snap, but people showed up. It was amazing. I had to get super drunk because I don't know about you, but I hate listening to my voice. Do you hate listening to your voice?
You know what's really funny is I never listen to my stuff. I don't know if it's because I don't like the sound of my voice. I think it's because I'm so futurist, kind of type A like you. I'm like on to the next thing. So like I don't like listening to it, not because of the sound of my voice, but I hear you on that. I'm just like, let's go do the next thing. I don't want to listen to the thing I already did. I already did that. I was there. I don't care. Let's go. So I'm with you.
The thought of watching myself on national television, and I knew like that was PTSD. That was very stressful. And so the thought of reliving the most stressful moment in my life, combined with having to hear my own annoying voice, I had to like wah, 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 before I even walked in. And so, but it took the edge off. So I was able to watch it, and it was all good at the end. I was just happy that people were interested. The radio stations were interviewing me. Every TV, it was like everybody was. I wanted to make my hometown proud. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? I wanted to
Did
represent
it feel like
Iowa.
that? Very much like one of our own, made it, so to speak, kind of in that scenario where they really felt like you were representing them?
Yeah, I think that because, and even on the show, the first cookie they showed was a cookie of, it was corn and it had Iowa on it. And so I do think right from the get-go, it was, here's our hometown hero, man. She's gonna kill it. Look at this. She's self-taught and she did great and let's do the damn thing, you know? So
Yes, I
I
love
think
it.
that's where all the support came from. And yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. I'm pretty lucky.
That's very cool. You're an ambassador for your town. You're like the mayor. You're basically you're the mayor of the town. I think that's great. The de facto mayor, the sugar maven, is amazing.
Yeah, I am
love
just
hearing
a
that.
sugar baby.
Marketing. Let's talk about marketing. We understand the community. You've built a lot of community through marketing, being able to create a voice that's your voice, a unique voice, a voice that clearly your
Let me ask you
community.
something. Do you honestly think that I'm good at marketing?
I think so.
Okay, I like
Yes.
that. Right.
We could break down what marketing is. I think you're a good storyteller. I think you understand brand and message.
Okay.
How good you are at advertising and kind of like the X, Y, and Z numbers of it, maybe not. That's up for debate. But
Sure.
purely from a brand message storytelling, yes, I think you're absolutely amazing at it. 100%.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
the reason is because you're just you, whatever that means. If it's the annoying voice or if whatever you think that is, you just own it. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do. And that's why people, gravitate towards you. I truly believe that. I think it's very, very important. So from the marketing standpoint, you mentioned simple things like taking a picture and using a hashtag. I want to take just a second to talk. So many people in the restaurant, hospitality, food and beverage industry, we suck at marketing, Tiffany, because we don't understand it, because we are so face to face. Somebody walks into our four walls and there's an exchange that happens, an experience, a transaction, food, beverage, whatever that is. And so we don't think about marketing because we think we just do it. If you just make an amazing cookie, people will come. It's not necessarily the truth, because then the other person has an amazing cookie and they can tell a story better than you. You're in big trouble. That's vulnerability. So give us some insights. Somebody who's thinking about marketing their own brand right now, what are a couple things that you feel like you might do well or that just come naturally to you?
Sure. So I do think this is really interesting because I don't really think of myself as a good marketer. I just see it kind of as part of my job. So the fact that you wanted to even talk to me about marketing was really eye-opening. And I've talked to a lot of my colleagues and friends who own restaurants about, he wants to talk to me about marketing, but I really don't know what, I just kind of do my own thing. But from all these conversations that I've had with friends and colleagues, I think, first of all, I would tell people it's important to be consistent. And so I think that people grab their phone in the morning before they get out of bed. I think they're checking stuff. And I think they're checking it over lunch. And I think they're checking it before they go to bed. And so I'm trying to do 3 times a day. My point of doing that is always staying in people's minds. So let's say you're a mom and you have a kid's birthday party 2 weeks from now, and you're scrolling through Instagram before you go to bed, and there's Also Sweet. Okay, I better send a quick email and put an order in for a cake. You just never know when you're going to grab that customer. The second thing I feel like I do well, I like the visuals. I think I'm good at, that sounds so basic, but I think I'm really good at taking pictures and making things look beautiful. I think having a good eye for what looks pretty is important too. And then also, I feel like just kind of by nature, I have a self-depreciating humor. And so I think that translates. It is very organically me. And I think that comes across in the social media. So whether, whatever it is, I think that I'm good at, and that puts people's guard down when they see that there's a human behind there and she's struggling too. Like for instance, during Thanksgiving, when we pull an all-nighter, I'll do a captain's vlog so people can follow along with our journey that night, because
That's
we're
great.
not pulling an all-nighter. We don't look good. We're miserable. So that kind of,
Real.
it's very real and organic. And I do think there's something to be said about seeing behind the curtain. Do you know what I'm saying? So here's what's happening behind the scenes. And I think people like it. And then it makes you relatable. That's what I think. I don't know.
Tiffany.
I've talked to other businesses that have a company do their social media. And
Yeah.
to me, I could smell it a mile away. It seems impersonal. It's cold. It doesn't seem like them. And then the company never is active on or supportive of the other businesses. So they only are, they're like, I can tell the company's coming on and posting, and then they're like backing up, you know? I think it's important too, like, to see other businesses on other people's Facebook or other people's Instagram, or to be supportive as well. So does that answer your question?
I'll say a few things. Yes, first.
Okay.
Yes, that answers my question. I'll say this is, if your intent is strong and pure, then it all comes to you, versus being transactional, thinking about conversions and clicks and all this. Put yourself out there and things come to you. However you do that and manage that, that's up to each business. But to your point, if it's not genuine, organic, and coming from within, you can smell it. To your point, everything that you just said is basically, people are paying $2,000 for a master class to basically say what you just said.
Can you imagine?
It is exactly what marketing is. We get caught up in the minutia of the what and the how and the analytics of it, and being able to beat the algorithm and blah, 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 blah. That's marketing. It's pure storytelling. It's connecting to other humans. And so I think it's big. And I love the fact that you're acknowledging. I mean, we've talked about this. Our whole show is based on acknowledgement. It's everything that we're about on this. And so I think it's very important for people to understand that acknowledging the people that you work with, acknowledging the businesses in your community, the pillars of your community, it matters. Clearly, it's won over for you. Talk about, so we called this marketing through disaster because it was very interesting. It was polarizing. We have a bakery, and you're again gregarious and a big personality and all that. And we talked about marketing through disaster. It seems counter to what we talk about with, the bakery from Davenport, Iowa, but it's been something you've been pretty good at navigating. Talk about that when COVID hits and, you had flooding issues, things like that. You go into kind of overdrive even to communicate more than you usually do, which is at least 3 times a day. So talk about that dynamic. Why is that important?
So it's important, with the flood, I saw businesses that were 100% wiped out. And so, I own a business downtown, and we're like one big family. So instead of wanting to annihilate each other, it's really how can we work all together to make downtown better? That's really the philosophy here. So when I saw that business wiped out, my first urge was to grab as many employees as I could and take them under my wing and give them a job, so that they could survive. And so with that just kind of organically happened. I think I had 4 employees from one restaurant at one point. So with that talent what
was that restaurant?
It was Rome. It was Rome, and it was right smack there. I mean, those barriers broke, and it was my favorite restaurant down here too. But I got the executive chef. I grabbed the sous chef. I grabbed Ria, Armando, and then a couple bakers. So with that talent that I was grabbing to try and give a job, I then marketed what they were doing. So we did a sandwich of the week. We did, here's Ria's soup that she's making. Everything that she was able to make and do from her skill set, I just blasted it everywhere that I could. Because why wouldn't you? And so then organically, we just kind of got more customers. So that was kind of with the flood. With COVID, everybody freaked out. I don't think I stopped crying the first day when the governor shut everything down. I was like, what am I going to do? But you have to, as a business owner, I had to pivot really freaking fast. and, you know, just kind of grind it out. And I thought there was just, you know, I'm sure everybody sees so much negativity that's going on right now that I decided, you know what, we're going to go in the opposite direction. And we, you know, again, people are at home, people are reaching for their phones. So let me, what I can do is I can teach people, let's have a virtual baking party. So even though I'm not trying to sell anything, you know, people are going to appreciate that I'm sharing recipes and sharing how-tos. And so that's kind of a marketing thing. We are doing TikToks now because why wouldn't we? We're having fun. It's just another way people were grabbing, you know, the attention of people at home because people are on their phone. So I had to really quickly, with the parameters in place, so people were at home, people were not able to leave. How am I going to use this to reach people because people weren't coming in? And so that's kind of what I did. Does that make sense?
That's it. Hustle and communicate is the mantra of this show. And it's all about humans. That's the whole game. So you get that. It's innate in you. You don't think you were quote unquote good at marketing because you maybe don't have the training or know the lingo or whatever. You have it in you. It's in your DNA, which is very clear. I want to take the last couple of minutes to talk about a couple of the people that we want to acknowledge, kind of that you get the distinct honor of being able to work with. Who's a couple of the people that we want to talk about, you know, on your team?
Yeah, I love Emma. She's been with me for going on 5 years. Emma's the best. She's my cake decorator manager.
Excellent.
And I have crossed the line a long time ago. You know how they're like, don't be friends with your employees. Too late.
Whoops.
Oh, no. Yeah. So she just got engaged over the weekend. And if she doesn't have me in her wedding, we're going to report to HR. Just saying.
Congrats, Emma.
Yeah, Emma got engaged, so that's exciting. I love her. I would take a bullet for her. Christine is another one. She's like the little worker bee. If I was Mr. Krabs, Christine would be SpongeBob. She's like flipping burgers and whipping out cookies and doing all that while I'm on the phone taking orders. We have Havla. She was with me for like 3 or 4 years, and she's getting ready to pop and have a baby. Margot is my morning baker. She's going to have a baby. She's like, we're out to here too. David's my front counter guy who works for a TV station in Milwaukee, who set up my lighting to make sure I didn't have any shadows for your podcast.
Perfect.
Yep.
Looking good.
So he's important. And then Mark, my dishwasher, Yvette, the dishwasher. Dishwashers are important because without them, we would come to our draining hole.
Number one, most important person in the building. All right, I love that we got to catch up with this. I want to bring Sophie on real quick. Usually Sophie comes on after our guest takes off, but Sophie was the one who set this up. And Sophie, I think Sophie's making sure she's ready to go. She doesn't have a lighting person like you do, Tiffany. So,
I have a lighting person.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Sophie Breaker basically runs this entire show. She's behind the scenes making sure that everything happens. And she always comes on and does little like takeaways, her perspective of the conversation we have. I wanted to bring her on because she's the reason that we have this channel that you're a part of, Best Served Baked, where we focus on baked goods, pastries, desserts. It was very much important to her. And then I said, I'm going to Iowa. And she says, my friend Christine, who is your roommate, right?
Yep. We met in baking labs.
And she got you on the show. So Sophie acknowledging Christine and you are the reason that you're on the show. So thank you to Sophie. Sophie, why was it important? You were so excited about Oh So Sweet, really about Tiffany, about Christine. What is it? Yeah. Why was it important for you to have them on the show?
God, you know, you say that thing every single day, like good people connecting good people. And I'm like, good people connecting good people. I can basically say the entire entry now, but it's so true.
I'm consistent to Tiffany's point. I am consistent.
Yeah, no, I met Christine in baking labs. We became friends over our failures in chocolate class. We lived together for 3 years. Wow. Last February, I went to her hometown and I visited, and I got to go to OC Suite where she had been working for 2-3 summers by then.
Yeah. And I remember you guys had food. You had you ate on the flower bed.
First day.
Yeah, you guys like pulled up chairs to the flower bins and ate. I think one of you had a salted caramel brownie.
That was me.
Yeah, I
So good.
Great memory.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. And
Yeah.
and it
All right,
was
we
so
haven't even
cold.
talked about the food.
So cold.
Like geek out for 30 seconds on some of Tiffany and Christine's like
Oh,
desserts.
God.
What do you like?
So they had these. Do you still have the big whoopie pies? Are those still?
You
a
know
thing?
what?
Did you
we
take those
changed
away?
it. Well, seasonally. We'll bring those back
okay.
probably like around when it starts getting cold. Right now it's like fruit. Lemon,
Yeah,
red,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So those salted caramel brownies, mind blowing. And I took one home and I gave it to my parents, and they were like, "Oh my God, we got to go to Iowa." And those like sometimes I used to have dreams about those.
my gosh,
the cakes, I really love watching the cakes as they go through because they're so beautiful. And and the macaroons, I remember the day we went, you were just plugging them out like 4 sheet trays in 10 minutes. And I was like, you're insane. So
I'm like a macaron ninja.
You are. You really are.
I can pump them out.
I love it. All right. That's it. We're going to end the show here. That was perfect. Tiphanie Cannon, thank you so much for being on. Sophie, thank you for making this happen. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk with you. I'm super excited. I love what you're doing, and I think there's so much that we can learn within the industry of the way that you're just being organically me. I think it's so great. So Sophie Cannon, Sophie Breaker, Tiphanie Cannon, appreciate you both. And thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Cheers.